Hey guys, Kim here, and you are tuned in to Kim E, the Diabetes MP. Now, today I wanted to dive into insulin resistance. The last video that I did, I talked about prediabetes, and I mentioned insulin resistance quite a few times in that video. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it in the description box so you can watch it after this video. But I wanted to dive into insulin resistance because a lot of diabetics, this is their problem, is insulin resistance. And the thing about insulin resistance is it can be prevented, okay? It can be prevented and we can reverse it, okay? If it's not too far gone, we can reverse it. So like I stated in the previous video, we really want to lock in on patients that fall in this category as pre-diabetic because we can keep them from having to develop diabetes. And if we reverse the insulin resistance, then we will do it. Now, before we get into insulin resistance, I do want to make everyone aware of a new thing that I put together called the NP Diabetes Starter Pack. Now, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I offer a lot of different cheat sheets, guides, workbooks, and I offer all of these things for free, okay? I have a mini insulin course, I have diabetic medication cheat sheets, goal setting workbooks, all kinds of things for the nurse practitioner that manages diabetes. But I felt like depending upon when you found me on the internet, you may or may not have gotten access to all of those freebies, okay? And so what I wanted to do was have a place where all of them are housed and a place where as I add more freebies, you'll have access to them, okay? And also, as things are updated, as new advances come out, new guidelines come out, I can update as I go, and I don't have all these different links, and you don't have all these different links that you have to keep up with. It's just one place that you can go. And so if you are new and you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to link it down in the description box. If you're already on my email list, you already have access to it, so check your email. If you haven't gotten one from me, check your spam because sometimes it can go there too. But just wanted to make sure that I let you guys know that. Okay, so let's get into insulin resistance. So what is it? All right. So to understand what insulin resistance is, we kind of have to talk about the normal process that goes on in a patient's body and just the physiology with it. And then we'll kind of touch on the pathophysiology. I'm going to try to keep this as simple as possible and also link in the description box if you need a little bit more explanation or if you're just curious, I'll link some videos in the description box that will go more deeper into detail, but I want to make it very simple for those because I don't want to confuse anybody. So normally when we consume food, it is broken down into a simple sugar, and we know that to be glucose. Glucose is absorbed, and the thing about glucose is it's an energy source. Our body loves it, okay? That is why when you go a long periods of time, you start to feel weak, you feel jittery, which we know to be like hypoglycemia. It's an energy source. It gives us energy to go, and our body loves glucose, especially our brain, okay? Now, it does no good if the glucose is just circulating in the bloodstream. It actually needs to get into the cells. But glucose is a large molecule and it just can't go into the cells, okay? It needs help. It needs assistance. Now, insulin is that assistance. Now, glucose is consumed, it's broken down, and it's circulating in our bloodstream. And this is why you'll have these spikes of glycemia, hyperglycemia. Now, in a normal body, the pancreas is signaled that, hey, you need to make more insulin, okay? And that insulin is going to assist glucose molecules to get into the cells. So that's what the pancreas does. It produces insulin. Insulin comes around. It binds to different receptors on the cells. By doing that, channels are opened up on the cell. Glucose goes into the cell and then it's utilized and so on. We're a happy body. Now, with a person that has insulin resistance, what happens is that insulin molecule is not able to bind correctly. Those receptors are defective. And the way that the insulin binds to that receptor is like a key, a lock and a key. Okay. Now it goes right into the slide. It's like, hey, this is my receptor. I'm going to fit right here. But in insulin resistance, that receptor is defective. And so it cannot bind. It cannot bind correctly. And so what happens is those receptors, those channels that open up for glucose cannot open properly, and glucose does not go into the cell like it wants to. So what happens then? So if the glucose is not going into the cell, you end up having an increase in circulating glucose, and that's why you would have hyperglycemia. Okay. Now that in a nutshell is what insulin resistance is. Those insulin molecules, they're there, but they're not able to bind as they should. And then meanwhile, that glucose is just accumulating because we're just keeping it on eating. The glucose is still coming. And so that insulin is just kind of there, but it's not working. Our body's not responding to it. Now, while all of this is going, the pancreas doesn't really know that there's a defective receptor and that the insulin is not being able to bind correctly and the glucose is not getting in. All it knows is there's glucose, there's a high amount of glucose. I need to crank out more insulin. And so it goes into overdrive and it keeps on putting out that insulin, and over time it tires out, it fails, it poops out. Now, can you see how problematic this can be for the person that has pre-diabetes and even the person that is diabetic? Can you see how being insulin resistant can really be problematic? Because meanwhile, that pancreas keeps on trying to correct, that high glucose in the bloodstream. Over time, like anything, it's going to be overworked and it's going to fail. And a lot of our diabetic medications require that the patient still has endogenous insulin circulating. So we really want to protect that pancreas and those cells. Now, if you have a pre-diabetic patient, a patient that has pre-diabetes who has gone so many years not even knowing that they have pre-diabetes, okay? And then you go and you add on a medication that overworks that pancreas, you see how that can be problematic? So all the reason why catching people while they're in pre-diabetes, that category, is so pertinent and crucial, okay? Because by the time a lot of people are considered diabetic, a lot of times we don't have a lot of pancreas reserve. It's been overworking for so many years, and we really don't have much that we can really work with at that point. So what causes insulin resistance? And in turn, what can we do to prevent it? Okay. Really, the lifestyle really is the answer to both of those. The thing that causes insulin primarily is a person's lifestyle. The person that's overweight, the person that is obese, a person who is 45 and older, a person who is sedentary, a person that has a family history of diabetes or has a history of gestational diabetes, even the woman who has PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome. All of this puts you at risk for insulin resistance, which also in turn puts you at risk for diabetes. So if we can get people and know the risk factors here and start to aggressively work on lifestyle modifications, we really can prevent diabetes and reverse anything that's already starting to happen. Now, again, I made a video all about lifestyle modifications. I even made a video over the food guidelines for diabetes. I'll link those in the description box so you can go and view those after this video. The key though, guys, is that we really want to have early detection over pre-diabetes, as we already know that 1/3 of adult Americans have this, okay? If we can get people at this stage and start aggressively implementing lifestyle modifications, we can really prevent diabetes, guys. Well, Okay, guys, that's all I have for you. Again, if you want to see that overview video over pre-diabetes, I'm going to link it in the description box, as well as other videos that I have referenced throughout this video. If you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, ding that notification bell so you do not miss an upload. Now, the next video that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to really touch on interventions that you can do in addition to your lifestyle modifications. So make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss that video. Before I log off, I do have one more thing that I want to tell you, okay, that I don't want any of us to forget. Let us never, ever, ever leave a nurse behind. All right, guys, talk to you later.